Hello everyone, it's me Anita again, and I wanted to do a video, hopefully a fairly quick one, and talk about something that I'm going through right at the moment, something that I'm struggling with, and something that I really haven't heard anybody else talk about. And so that's why I really wanted to go ahead and do this while I'm still in the process of trying to figure things out. And what I want to talk about is I want to talk about sadness, and I want to talk about privilege as well in connection with that. And it seems like it's sort of an odd thing to talk about, or an odd juxtaposition. But I think if you listen to this, I think you'll see where I'm going, and hopefully this will make sense to you. But about 3 or 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe, I was playing tennis with a friend of mine, and he hit a lob, and I ran up, and it went over my head. I don't jump very well. My knees are bad now, and I made this little barely jump and sort of swung at it and missed it by about 3 or 4 feet. And came down. I was just laughing because it was just completely absurd, and looked up at him, and he was laughing as well. And in the process of laughing, and really laughing very hard, it switched over. I almost wanted to started crying, not from laughing, but from sadness. And that really puzzled me at the time, and I didn't really allow myself, while playing tennis with a friend of mine, to take time to process that. I think you can sort of understand why. But I thought about it a lot. I've been thinking about it ever since. And I've become aware of what I'm sort of terming a lake of sadness that is present as sort of a background. I mean, it's there. It's always there. It's not something I can deal with and will go away. It's something that I have to acknowledge and say, well, it's there. It's part of me. But it also raises the question of where does that sadness come from? And I've been thinking about that, and I've gone in sort of different directions, but as the time has gone on, and I've thought about this more and more, I think this sort of lake of sadness, if you will, is fed by streams that are coming in from dysphoria, and I became really aware of that a little bit earlier tonight. And you know, I have small breasts now, and they're right, but there's a sense of, but I've missed them all the rest of my life. And they're becoming aware of the fact that, well, there was a sadness from the dysphoria, the sadness that my body was wrong, that I really have been experiencing all of my life, except I just never allowed it to get into consciousness. And for something to really become pain, you have to become conscious of it. And so this lake of sadness, if you will, is made up of the sadness from experiencing pain that was never really experienced. It was registered. It was it accumulated over time, if you will, but it's all the times that I felt ashamed of something I did because it seemed too feminine, and I was too desperate not to seem feminine, or things where people would get too close to what the secret was, and I would become scared and terrified without really knowing why. And so it was one of these things where the sadness is there. It's always been there. And again, this is one of these things that earlier tonight, when I was sort of going through this and experiencing it again, I realized that, well, okay, I've had these little periods throughout my life, just sort of discrete little times, and there'd be some night where I just felt really, really sad without any particular reason why. And I think the reason why was the dysphoria. Um, the sadness that comes from incidents. Since I've been transitioning, those incidents I've identified them as more consciously. When I go into a store, for example, and the sales clerk doesn't want to have anything to do with me, which has happened on a couple of occasions, and I sort of have to keep pestering them to get service. Um, and so it's one of those things where you just go, well, okay, you know, that's life. Those things are going to happen, and you just sort of move on with it. You can't let it stop you from doing things. But at the same time, there's a pain that comes with that, and there's a sadness that's attached to that pain, because you really want it to be otherwise. You really want it to be more expansive. You want it to be something that is, or at least I do. I want it to be something that is enjoyable for all parties, something that is actually uplifting in some ways, because you're actually engaging with another person. Um, and so all these little threads of sadness, I think, go into this lake, and it's there. And as I've been thinking about this over the last few weeks, one of the things that sort of struck me is, if I were really a cisgendered white male, which is kind of what I've appeared to be and sort of tried to pass myself off for 60 some odd years, 65 years, then that pain, a lot of that pain wouldn't be there. And that would be a privilege that I would have, because that wouldn't be something that would be a consideration. Being a transgender person, a transgender woman who's got the wrong body, I mean, there's the pain from the dysphoria that cisgender people don't have to deal with. There is the pain from rejection or humiliation or shame that feeds into that. And I started realizing it's not just my pain. It's not only that. Those things feed into it. But it's actually a shared pool of pain with other transgender people, people who are somewhat gender nonconforming. I have a friend who's a cross-dresser. He's not in the process of transitioning. He's not in a relationship where he feels comfortable really broaching that subject or exploring his gender identity with his wife. He's gone through a nasty divorce once when he tried to do that. He doesn't want to risk that again. I certainly understand that situation. But he had an opportunity where he could sort of dress the way he felt like he wanted to dress. He bought some clothes, and then started feeling really bad about himself, started feeling a lot of self-disgust, and got rid of the stuff that he had just bought. And I became aware of the fact that that pain resonated. That pain was part of that lake. That's part of my pain too. And it's not a sort of empathetic taking on of that pain. It's a recognition that that's a shared pain. That this lake is actually a lake of pain that one inherits when one is transgender. It sounds sort of Jungian, in terms of sort of archetypes or something like that, a shared unconscious. And I'm a little aware of that. I'm a little aware that that's kind of a hard concept for a lot of people to accept. But I do think that in terms of looking at that and looking at that pain, and then thinking about it in terms of privilege, a cisgendered male doesn't have that pain. A cisgendered female doesn't have that pain and isn't sharing that same shame and pain that most transgender people feel. But at the same time, there's a lot of other sources of that pain. I was thinking about my friends who are African American and have suffered a lot of discrimination and all the pain that's gone into that shared pool of pain as well. And I don't know whether those pools of lakes of pain are shared or not. But I think but you start looking at it and you start going, well, the people who don't have privilege start experiencing a lot of pain, and there's a shared pain where they instinctively know what the other person who's in that same situation is feeling. It's their pain as well. It echoes, it reverberates, it hits at that shared pain, and in some ways it's something that pulls us together. In some ways it's something you'd say, well, it'd be really nice if we didn't have that, and I certainly would agree with that. One of the things I would love to do is have those pulls of pain go away at some point in time. But I also think that we can use this as a way of helping us to actually move towards being more active, more caring, more open with one another, um, and we can actually make it a source for something good. But I wanted to, and I'm going to stop there because I'm still really struggling with this. I really don't quite know where this is going. But I wanted to talk about it because this is a pain. It's not depression, and I won't call myself depressed. Um, so it's a pain that is based on the dysphoria, based on a shared experience of not having the privilege not to have to worry about certain things, not to have to worry about what bathroom I'm going to use, not having to worry about what my reception is going to be by someone else, uh, not worrying about being misgendered, um, and and recognizing that other people have a very similar pool of pain and may have different sources, but I think the pain is pain. I mean, I think the pain is the same, and then being able to use that to really build um, a connection with other people, an understanding of what they're really going through, and in some ways get to what reality is, get to the real emotions that people are dealing with, and how we might be able to help each other. Um, so I want to stop there because I don't really quite know what else to say on this at this point. But thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. The beautiful picture of me, I think, shows up over here at some point. And there'll be a link to the rest of the videos. I think it'll end up over here somewhere. And but click on the little alarm bell and you'll get notifications of when I post. And because otherwise you probably won't. But again, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate people viewing them. And I do hope that you find this interesting or helpful or at least enlightening in some ways. Thank you.